I'm going to show you that raiding in vanilla can actually be at the same difficulty level as Mythic raiding, like in retail, and Mythic Plus dungeons. To do that, we're going to look at how many guilds even were able to kill all 15 bosses in naxx 40 in Classic, and how many failed to do so. We're going to look at how fast my tryhard guild in Classic was able to clear naxx. Hint, not very fast. And then we're going to look at how many guilds were actually able to clear naxx in the coveted sub 60-minute time. Now I want to be very clear and say that naxx 40 is more like a heroic raid difficulty, but speed running is where we start to get into that mythic raid difficulty. The difference is, of course, is that with mythic raiding, it's more about the perfect execution on that one boss to get it down. And there's sometimes hundreds of pulls before you get a difficult boss down. With Classic, it's like you have just one shot to speed run that raid. If there's really any sort of mistake in your whole 1 hour raid, the run is botched and you have to wait till sort of like next week. And so that's kind of the difficulty, where speed running, it's closer to Mythic Plus, where you put the key in and go. And if you mess up, probably you can't make up the time. So let's talk about the difficulty of Classic naxx. naxx 40. So there were 16,000, just over 16,000 guilds that were able to clear the whole thing. And if you add up all these numbers here, we have about 4,000, 4,500 who couldn't full clear. Maybe they were 14 out of 15, maybe they're 1 out of 15, but 25% of players couldn't beat naxx. They couldn't beat vanilla. 25% of players. But people say vanilla is easy. And with all the YouTube videos, all the guides for their classes, all the min-maxing, all the consumables and world buffs, they still couldn't do it. But people say vanilla is easy. Now, of course, it's easy for these 50 people. This distribution kind of feels like a heroic raid difficulty. Right now, I know people in Dragonflight who are still, as the patch is about to end, still working on the final 1 or 2 bosses in heroic. If you can't clear heroic in the first couple weeks, like, you're basically not that good. And these players couldn't beat the game in vanilla when they have all the information, they have all the video guides, they have all the min-maxing. They still couldn't beat this easy game, right? Does that make sense? All of a sudden, vanilla is not that easy. 52 guilds were able to full clear on the first day. 52 guilds full cleared on the first day. And then, of course, there was a number of guilds who were able to full clear on the first week. They had to go in, several times that week. But in all the months that naxx was out, still 25% couldn't beat it. Now let's look at my best run in Classic. Here I am, right here, 308 in the US. In the world, this would have been abysmal, maybe 1,000 or worse, with a time of 1 hour, 56 minutes, 36 seconds. I mean, that's not horrible, but it's not great. It's nothing to be like impressed with, really. On Classic Era, I'm in phase 7. I'm one of the tanks here, and we just got a 65-minute clear. Prior to this 65-minute clear, we had a 67-minute, which was the best out of all the guilds on Era outside of China. We always said phase 7's #1 outside of China, because China, the Chinese, you can't beat them. You just don't even try. The Chinese.
China not #1. China #1. You're nothing.
But that wasn't forever, because if we go to all regions, we now see that active in the EU, #1. They even beat the Chinese. by a few seconds. And it would actually be interesting to see how would China be doing if the NetEase thing wasn't going on. So none of these players are able to even access their characters. The servers have been, as far as I understand, deleted or at least shut down, and it's all gone. So now it's basically EU versus NA. And so if we just go and look at US and EU, we've got Phase 7 Fun Police inactive. Fun Police was actually the very first guild to get a sub 60, so congrats to them. But a couple days later, active beat Fun Police and took the crown. So let's compare the time that active was able to get to classic proper. So the world record is 43 minutes 29 seconds. I also just want to say that only 45 guilds in classic proper ever did a sub 60 minute naxx 40 man clear. That's your mythic raid tier. Granted, it's a self-imposed challenge. Not everybody's going to want to do it, but that difficulty, that's like your mythic raid difficulty. Only 45 guilds in the world were able to complete that. However, this is coming from a much larger pool. This is, the best of the best. These players have been speed running for years, and the recruitment pool is much bigger than on Era. We look at how active would rank with their time. They would take this place right here, 20th place, 20th in the world. That's really, really, really good. Now, what do these players get for clearing the raid in this time? Absolutely nothing different than the people who are taking hours and hours and maybe even multiple days per week to fully clear naxx. They don't get anything different. It's the same loot. But you know what? There's also speed running in retail. And you know what you get for speed running in retail? Absolutely nothing. You do it for the challenge. You do it for the exhilaration. And some people just like to challenge themselves in that way. For example, I've done quite a bit of high-ish and keystone mythic plus dungeon pushing in retail. In my heyday, I was 83 in the world. That's pretty good. Granted, it was not on a super popular class, but nonetheless, it was a feat. And so here I was doing 22s and 23s, 24s, when for the last 6 years, for all of Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands, if you do a 15 key, that's the top loot you can get. And doing anything more than that, it's incredibly difficult, and you don't get anything. You don't get any loot or anything for that. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked what you saw, please comment and subscribe, and I would love to chat with you. I'm streaming now most evenings on YouTube Live here right on this channel, so pop in and say hello. Dwarf Lord out.